Number 1. My movie. I wanted to start up a YouTube channel, and I decided a good idea would be to film myself exploring abandoned areas. I see a lot of people doing explorations of areas where they accidentally get footage of ghosts on their video. I figured it would be fun to do this. Even if I didn't get a picture of a ghost, it still could be a neat video to make. I decided to try and explore this old school building outside of town. It was a building that my parents had gone to school to. When I was much younger, the town built a new school and switched over. Since then, the old school just sat empty and deteriorated. It wasn't too difficult to get into. I didn't have the nerve to go out during the day. I was much more worried about getting arrested than I was about ghosts. I took a flashlight and figured I would just use my cell phone to take video of the interior. I found a basement window that had been kicked in. Or, more accurately, I kicked it in. I broke off the remaining glass and lowered myself down into the basement. The basement was pretty standard. It was actually a boiler room, and visions of Freddy Krueger filled my head. I took some video. Then I found the rickety stairs leading up to the first floor of the building. I think the place was playing tricks on my mind. I did think I heard footsteps as I was walking around. Although it made me nervous, I didn't at any point really believe that I was not alone in the building. So, what I basically did was use the ambient light in the school to try and take video of the rooms. I'd walk into the rooms first. I'd flash my cell phone around. I'd then explain what I was seeing to get it on video. And then I would leave. I have to admit that I did get a little disheartened because it seemed like my video would end up being boring. I almost considered several times to try and fake a ghost or something. I needed some sort of hook, so I walked into what I figured had to be the library. There were some shelves still left in there. I decided I'd walk up and down the aisles, maybe catch a scary noise on the camera. I really wasn't scared at this point. When I was done, I was filming the lounging area in the library. I was trying to recap what I'd seen so far. It was when I was looking at the camera that I saw something. It was just a large black blob. I figured it was probably just a chair or something. But on the camera, it looked like it might be a ghost or something. I figured I would narrate as if I hadn't seen anything there, only to identify it later on camera. As I began talking again though, the blob moved. I jumped, thinking that maybe I'd seen a real ghost, while not really believing in them. Startled, I first fell back, and then I noticed it wasn't a blob, but a human form, and it was coming in my direction. When it grabbed my arm, I became very aware that it was not a ghost. It was a person. Not a very big person, but the fact that I was startled gave him leverage over me. He was yelling and struggling with me, but honestly, I can't recall anything that he was saying. He grabbed my arm and yanked it hard. My cell phone fell to the ground. I wanted to pick it up, but more than that, I wanted to get away. I struggled with the guy before stamping on his foot several times. He finally let go of me. I thought about grabbing my phone, but I seriously just wanted to get out of there. I booked it back down to the basement and climbed out the broken window. I didn't stop running until I was very far away from that school. I was upset about my phone and my footage, but I was trespassing, so I couldn't call the police and expect any help. There wasn't much I could do other than tell my parents that I had lost my phone, so they could cancel the service and get me a new one. It sucks, because I would love to have that footage for a video. Number 2. Treehouse. A lot of neighborhoods have abandoned buildings or houses in them. I was always a bit scared trying to explore them, but my friends all really liked it. There was one house, deep in the neighborhood, which had been empty for as long as I could remember. It even had a story about it. You know the type. Some family lived there, and the father went bonkers and killed his family before killing himself. It was the typical sort of story that followed these sorts of places. One night, my friends were feeling pretty daring, and they wanted to go and explore the house. We were around 13 years old when this happened. There were 5 of us, so we snuck out late one night and went over to the house. It really wasn't that exciting. We found a boarded up window and we pulled the boards out. The house had a bunch of trash in it. Beer bottles covered the floor and graffiti covered the walls. Probably a lot of teenagers there. In fact, Kevin was there, and according to the graffiti, he rules. We then noticed that there was a treehouse in the backyard. It was built up into a high tree, and there were boards nailed into the tree to use as a ladder. It looked very rickety. My friends and I dared my friend Ricky to climb up to the treehouse. He really didn't want to, but you know how boys can be. He didn't want to lose face. Ricky slowly and carefully climbed up the ladder boards. We could tell he was really scared. The boards were old, and he could have fallen down and gotten hurt badly. But he made his way to the top. Ricky put his hand onto the floor of the treehouse, about to pull himself in. Right then, we saw a pale arm reach out of the treehouse. It grabbed Ricky's arm. Scared out of his mind, Ricky started screaming and tried to pull his arm away. Unfortunately, he succeeded, and when he freed himself, he fell all the way down, off the tree, and onto his butt. Looking at the treehouse, I saw the top half of a small head peering out of the treehouse, looking down at us. Luckily, Ricky hadn't broken anything. He was just startled. We grabbed him, pulled him up, and booked out of there. I don't know who or what was living in that treehouse, but I'll never forget it. Number 3. The Factory. There was this really old factory that was abandoned outside of our town. I don't really know what kind of factory it was. It had been abandoned for as long as I can remember. We didn't really have any stories about it or anything. It was just an old building. One day, I was really bored and I decided to go and explore the factory. It was pretty easy to get into. I easily stepped over the gate and started exploring the yards. There were several buildings and several cement yards. As far as I was aware, there were no security guards or anything like that there. I was completely alone, and I have to admit it was pretty creepy. The main building was a 3-story building. It was easy enough to break into. There was a broken window I found to slip into. There was a lot of garbage and rusty machinery in the building. The floor seemed completely solid, though. I found my way over to the stairs and thought I would climb up to the top floor and get a good look over the entire factory yard. The stairs were just as solid as the floor was, so I had no worries that I was going to fall in. The top floor of the factory didn't have any rooms in it. It was completely open, with only windows for outside walls. Many of them were broken, of course. I was surprised that there was a lot of hospital equipment up there. I saw wheelchairs, gurneys, and even operating tables. I had not expected that. I then heard a noise from outside of the building. It sounded like somebody had opened a large garage door. At first I panicked, thinking that I really wasn't alone in the factory. But I wasn't sure, so I walked over to the direction of the noise. Looking down on the back parking and loading area of the factory, I saw something that chills me to this day. There was a small U-Haul moving truck, and I saw a huge man. I mean, this guy was enormous, Andre the Giant-sized enormous. And he had, over each shoulder, what looked like a body bag. And they looked filled. He walked over to the truck, threw the bags in there. Then I watched as he walked back to the loading area, grabbed 2 more, and then loaded them into the truck. I ducked down, my palms sweaty, and I was scared out of my mind. I just didn't want to get caught. I kept peeking out the window, but doing my best not to be seen. After loading the truck up, the huge man got into the back of the truck and closed the door. There must have been another man driving because the truck took off. I waited about an hour after the truck left before I did anything. I wanted to make sure it was gone and was not coming back. Part of me wanted to check out the loading area and try to figure out what was going on. Fortunately, the intelligent part of me didn't want to do that. I crept out of the factory and out of the yard. Every step, I expected to see the truck coming back, but it didn't. I didn't tell my parents what happened. I didn't tell the cops. I should have, but I was so scared of being caught. But I've never forgotten that huge man carrying what I thought had to be human bodies. Hey y'all, Killer Orange Cat here. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please consider hitting the subscribe button below, or the icon of Ichigo that will appear at the end of this closing. Feel free to leave a comment to let me know what you thought of the video, and maybe share it with someone you think might enjoy it. If you want, you can follow both Ichigo and myself on Facebook and Twitter. The links for the pages will be in the description. Also, if you have a story you like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please email it to the address provided in the description as well. I hope everyone is doing well, and whatever you do, don't forget to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.